Okay, welcome everybody to this video. If you want to understand why transcending suffering and why I care so much about reducing the suffering in other people's lives, listen to the end of this video. Okay, so I ask myself, and other people ask me also, Henry, why do you want to reduce the suffering and pain in other people's lives so much? Why do you take it upon you as your goal in life? Well, here's my argumentation. When you are permanently suffering and in pain, your existence is miserable. It is almost entirely miserable, and you start to question yourself, why do I even exist? And because your entire existence is stamped off as negative, you don't care anymore about yourself or the people around you, because life is inherently a bad joke. So it doesn't matter what you do, you will always be suffering. Now that is quite a destructive attitude, and it's an attitude that unfortunately I think arises very easily when you are permanently suffering. And you think, okay, it doesn't matter how I act, so I can act immorally, unethically, antisocially, it doesn't matter. And that's bad. If everybody does that in a society, you create a society filled up with individuals who behave destructively, and that is unproductive and for the entire society, and actually increases it accelerates the suffering even more, because then you create more pain and more harm to people by this sabotaging behavior. Now, I want to reduce that, because when you suffer, like I said, you basically are willing to destroy everything. It's worth destroying everything when you suffer. And that's to be avoided. It's like the fundamental state of life. It's worth ending everything. It's worth suicide. It's worth hurting others. And that's so fundamental and foundational that I think it's like the root of life that needs to be fixed, or not fixed, but supported to avoid suffering. Now, the interesting thing is that life is inherently painful and difficult. So people might ask then, Buddha says life is suffering. They may ask me then, Henry, aren't you going against the nature of reality? To a degree, maybe, but I do think that there is a layer in life that is called unnecessary suffering, or I would coin it unnecessary suffering. Let's say, well, you have two paths. You can decide now for yourself. On the one hand, I want to stay healthy, I want to do a lot of sport, I want to eat healthy, I want to take care of my relationships, be sociable, and have a purpose in life, in my career, let's say. The other path is where you want to drink alcohol excessively every day, consume hard narcotics and drugs, and do no sport and eat junk food. You have two paths. One path, the latter, the unhealthy path, does, I do think, produce suffering. Additional, marginal, incremental, unnecessary suffering. Because you had a choice to not take that path. You are taking drugs and alcohol, you are damaging your body, which could have been avoided, hence unnecessary. And it could have consciously been avoided. You know probably that consuming a lot of alcohol and drugs is harmful for yourself and the humans around you. Hence, it could have been avoided. And if you would have gone down that path, you would have enhance this unnecessary suffering and hurt the people around you. And that compounds then and compounds. They would become hurt, and as you know, hurt people. It would just continue and continue. Now, the goal here is to first of all avoid this suffering, because it's worth destroying your life for. It's like, if you're suffering, you won't do anything. Like, you can't be bothered to do anything because it's just miserable. That's it. Like, you can't argue around it. I mean, people who suffer from severe depression, it's so complex and so, well, you can't just tell them, look on the bright side of things. No, if they're suffering, like, that's it. And that's why I want to help people reduce their suffering by adopting better habits, thought processes, relationships, the fundamental aspects of life which allow you to have a healthy life of well-being and meaning also. That's my opinion on why I want to overcome or help people overcome and avoid suffering. Thanks for listening.